Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The impact of early childhood education tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Candace Thomas. She's Executive Director of First Aid Memphis. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Along with Sean Lee, who's President of Porter Lee. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be with you.
And Laura Testino is a reporter with the Daily Memphian. We'll talk a lot about pre-K, early childhood education, the big Head Start grant that was with Porter Lee for quite some time and spent 4 years at Memphis Shelby County Schools, came back just weeks ago. And so we'll talk about what that means for you all. But give me maybe a quick snapshot before we go really deep into this. And I'll start with you, Sean, of what Porter Lee does. And again, it's a almost $32 million Head Start federal contract to serve 3,000 or so children. What does that money mean, and what all do you do beyond that with early childhood education? And we'll go deeper on all of it.
Well, it's a big question. Our organization has been in Memphis since 1850, so this is our 175th anniversary. Currently, we serve about 44,000 children, birth to 5, throughout the community with things like high-quality preschool, books from birth, where we're mailing books to children every month. We do foster care, which is our legacy programming, and so everything is about empowering children and families to have healthy, optimal, and independent lives.
And we'll come back again to a lot of those parts. Candace, the role of First Aid, and how long has First Aid been around in Memphis?
First Aid Memphis is 6 years old now, and our role is really to work to align the early childhood system, so align early care and education, prenatal to 8, to make sure that all children have access to high quality care, that families and our communities are aware of the importance of early childhood, and to really build out quality in our community.
So, well, let's stay with the Head Start thing for a second, because again, the Memphis Shelby County Schools got the contract for 4 years. There were problems. Some of it was not comfortable. I mean, there was kicking by staff members. There was jerking, hitting. There was a child who got out of a school. So a bunch of violations of the policies. We don't have to dwell on that necessarily, but that $30 million is for about 3,000 students?
Correct.
How in the world, you found out in June that you guys you put your bid in, you got the contract, you had to start weeks later. How do you ramp that up? And is Head Start, let me also say it's federal money, is it beyond having certain conditions and certain standards, is it also a program, is it a learning program that you follow, or do you take your own approach to satisfy the outcomes that Head Start wants? Okay,
so let's unpack that. We found out July the 17th that we were becoming the grantee, and so you're right, the window of startup was very short. I think the federal government wishes it was faster, I think the district wishes it was faster, and we certainly do. But we got to work. We have an amazing team. We've already got over 1,000 children enrolled. We've hired staff, and so we've got 47 partners that are engaged throughout the community. These are high-quality child care centers. So we got to work, and the Head Start model is a national model. There are about 1,600 grantees around the country serving about 830,000 children. And so in Shelby County, there's 2,920 Head Start, and then additional children that we serve in early Head Start. Those are the babies, birth to 3. And so it's a model, but each grantee has a way of implementing the model. For example, we're using a lot of partners, and we engage the system to make sure that we're part of high quality care throughout the community. And so while it has a framework, there are about 1,400 standards that you have to meet to have a quality Head Start program. But we're very familiar with it. We've done it since 1999, and we're excited to get going. Yeah. It's only been 35 days now, and so we're off and running. We're looking forward to more time.
One more question for you, Candace, and I'll go to Laura here. I was doing quick math. That's about for the Head Start. That's about 10,000. I think my math is right. $10,000 per student, per child that would be in the Head Start program.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think the Head Start allocation, is it more than $1150?
Okay, yeah, okay, so $1150. I mean, there's a mix of federal money, there's some state money, there may be local money, there's philanthropy. I mean, what does it cost, I guess, is the fundamental question to do this right? And what are the sources of those funds?
Thank you, that's such a good question. So from a national standpoint, national best practices, high quality early care and education, we should actually be spending $12,500 per child. So that is regardless of income. That's just sort of the benchmark standard. Currently in Memphis and Shelby County, as with every other community across the country, we have different funding streams that fund early childhood education. So as you said, there's state funding, voluntary pre-K, there's local funding from the Shelby County Commission, as well as local funding from City Council, and then there's Head Start funds. So it takes all of this to make early care and education run smoothly in our community. But really the benchmark standard is about $12,500 per child. And Head Start gets us closest to that. The other funding streams, we still have a way to go to get to that number.
Laura.
While we're on numbers, just some other by the numbers for our viewers here. It sounds like maybe a little over a third enrolled so far since the grant has come in. Talk with me about the operators that you guys are working with. How many? You said there's 47. Is that fully staffed? You guys have all of your contracts out for all of your seats available at this point?
We have all the contracts out.
Okay.
We have 44 of the 47 settled, so we're getting really close to having everybody signed up. All of the partners are hiring. We've gone as fast as possible in just a short time, and so we offered contracts to all the existing Shelby County Head Start partners that we're working with the district, so that helped. These are experienced operators who already had staff in place. And then we have a network at Porterleith called Next Memphis that we partner with First Aid on, and so for the last several years we've been growing our footprint of supporting high quality childcare throughout the community. So we turned to those operators and said, who's ready for Head Start? So we had a lot of things in place since we submitted the grant in January. We spent 6 months getting people ready, and so I think we're off and running, but we've still got work to do. We've got to do some hiring, more enrollment, and getting classrooms set up. Just getting furniture in place is really important. So everything is coming along nicely, but I wish we had more than 7 days in a week.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think I was surprised to learn, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised to learn, that you can't transfer enrollment. So you guys are having to re-enroll any student or family that had already been enrolled in Head Start before. That's a big lift in less than a month before school starts. I want to talk a little bit more, this is a puzzle with a lot of different pieces that have to get put together for this to work in Shelby County. And one more question for you, Sean, with using a lot of the quality operators that MSCS had, talk with us a little bit about how the Porterleith approach managing the Head Start grant will be differentiated from MSCS's approach with those same kind of pieces.
Yeah, so what we've done is we've divided our classrooms into what we call pods, and every pod has sort of a mini compliance team that comes on top of it. So there's education compliance, there's nutrition compliance, there's facilities, but it's done very efficiently with staff who are able to serve 20, 30 classrooms apiece. And so they get to know the families, they get to know the operators. They're in the classrooms on a daily and weekly basis, looking at the operations and helping the partners do really well. So we've already started to staff up those pods, and they're starting to deploy out into the field and starting to coach the operators. So it's really about a bubble of safety around the classroom. It's not just the teacher's responsibility, it's all of our responsibilities to make sure they're supported and to prevent incidents from happening, and making sure children are educated and we're following those 1,400 standards that we have to follow.
Sure, and this is, you guys have maybe been quiet a little bit about this. You've certainly managed Head Start before, have managed early Head Start for a long time. This is the first time that Porterleith has had the Head Start grant completely for Shelby County, correct?
That's correct. We have been an early Head Start grantee since 1999, so we have relationships with the regional office of Head Start, and we know the standards inside and out. in 2014, we became a partner with Shelby County Schools. They became the grantee, and we were their partner. So we've been in this world a long time. We know how to do it right, and I think you're going to see really positive things happening over the coming year.
One question, if we could talk a little bit more about kind of finding those quality operators, finding those quality educators. That's something that for early childhood especially has been a challenge across the country. Candace is somebody who is helping manage kind of this network of all of these different people. Give us an overview. What is the quality of early childhood education in Memphis? Are we experiencing any lack of quality? Do we have enough educators and quality operators? And what does the state of that look like right now?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag and it's a complicated question. So there are some national standards by national early childhood education organizations that actually have articulated that Memphis and Shelby County, roughly 50% of our early learning spaces are considered high quality. And we can dispute that because, of course, everyone who runs an early learning space or who is a private business owner, of course, they think that their programs are strong and they think that they're providing high quality. So, and according to national models and national quality rating systems, we actually need to build our quality, especially here in Memphis and Shelby County, when early care and education is so critical. So we have a lot of work to do around quality, and we know that folks are doing the best they can, and quality means it costs more, and quality means that we need better, more qualified folks who are working in early care and education. Mm-hmm. So it's a complicated question.
What does that look like? If I'm a parent taking my kid to school, I hear a lot from parents that relationship is really important, right?
It's critical.
You want to just feel supported by somebody. Am I going to recognize from kind of the academic standard quality versus unquality?
Yeah.
How do you kind of, or not quality, how do you explain that difference to families who are looking?
Right. I mean, as a family, to me, first and foremost, is that you want your baby somewhere where you know they're going to be loved and where they're safe. So that's most important. Every family wants that for their baby. You can think about quality. There is a lot of nuance to it, mm-hmm. right? So for instance, if I walked into a child care center and there were infants and toddlers and they were in car seats for more than an hour, I would be concerned about that as a parent. Versus, or walk into a space where there are books that are age appropriate, that the adults are talking to young children, talking to infants as well. And so there's just some markers that you may be able to pick up on when you walk into a child care center, but it is a very nuanced, it's a nuanced approach. Mm-hmm. Most important is you would want your baby to feel loved and you want them to feel safe, and that's the bottom line.
About halfway through show, who does compliance and oversight of all the child care providers? I mean, I assume with Head Start, that's federal money. There's a certain amount, or maybe a lot, of federal oversight. But for all the, constellation of providers of early childhood care, is it state? Is it local? Is it you? I mean, who does that?
Yeah, it depends on the funding stream and where they are licensed through. So again, more complications to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. So if you're a child care center or a private provider, the oversight is likely the Department of Human Services. If you are a school district, your oversight is the Department of Education. With the First State and city and county dollars, you have both oversight with the Department of Education or Department of Human Services, as well as First State Memphis.
How much and Laura, I think, touched on this, but just how much of a player is Memphis Shelby County Schools going forward in this? They don't have the Head Start. I mentioned some of the problems, but they're still a big player in early child care, right? I mean, that doesn't change necessarily, just this grant has changed.
The grant has changed, their numbers have changed, but they're a critical piece to the puzzle here. They still have maybe 3,000 pre-K classrooms, pre-K seats around the county. So they're still a critical player in early childhood education.
We've done a lot of shows about the sort of political situation with MC, and I don't want to put either of you in that place. That's not your job. Do you feel like through all that, that you've had good relationships and good outcomes with Memphis Shelby County schools in terms of early childhood education?
Yeah. I have been in Memphis for 5 years, and we've had several superintendents in that time, but we've had the same staff in the early childhood department. So that has allowed us to build some relationships and to work on all of these issues together.
For you all still worked with MSCS even though you didn't have the Head Start, right? I mean, you're big enough that you had to have lots of communication with the school system.
We absolutely have relationships across the board. We serve on groups focused on the teacher pipeline. We're on literacy groups together, and so we've kept a great relationship with the district.
Do you work with the other, like the suburban school districts too? Is that part of, I mean, that's Shelby County.
That's really for Porter-Leith, that's phase 2 of this. We'd really like, this grant is for the entire county, and so we know there are families experiencing poverty in Collierville and Millington and Bartlett, and we'd love to, as we continue down the road, look for classrooms in those areas to partner with them.
Same with First Aid.
Yeah, First Aid Memphis, while our name is Memphis, we are a Shelby County early childhood backbone organization. We have some partnerships with Bartlett and Millington, but we look forward to growing our relationships with the other municipalities in the county.
One more from me, to say a dumb but really super important question, which is why is this important? What are the differences? Because I can remember for years before First Aid was, I mean, it was an outcome of a lot of conversations about the need for universal pre-K and all the benefits and payoffs. So go through some of those payoffs for the long term for these kids and these families and thus the community.
Well, I know for us, these are, with Head Start families, they're very low income families, $32,100 or less for a family of 4. And so if you think about a family that's going through that, they're experiencing a lot of challenges, whether it's transportation, housing. And what Head Start does is it wraps their arms around the entire family. It's not just your typical pre-K program with the classroom teacher, it's all of these comprehensive services. We sit down with families and say, our first question when we meet them is, what is your dream for your family? No matter your income level, you have a dream, and we want to help that family achieve it, and Head Start provides resources to help them do that. So not only is the child advancing and getting ready for kindergarten, the family is taking steps to make changes so that they move their family from where they are to a life of success. And so you really see the outcome, not just with, it's 2 generational and sometimes 3.
Yeah. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll just add to that in addition to the child and the family, like our community is stronger when we have stronger early care and education. Our workforce is stronger because parents have a place where they can take their children and they know their children are loved and cared for. Employers are happier because we know that we can rely on parents who have high quality care. So it's a reverberation from the baby and that family to our whole community.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
To remember is it doesn't end at kindergarten. We want them reading at a 3rd grade level by the end of 3rd grade. If they don't, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. And so it's very important for Memphis to get kids to kindergarten. And it's important for the district to pick that up and run with it and get these kids reading by the end of 3rd grade. And so it really is a partnership from cradle all the way through.
Yeah. Laura.
To talk a little bit more about where we kind of are, Shelby County having about maybe 50%, as you said, quality seats, how does that impact how close we are to getting, to what I assume is the ultimate goal of 100% universal pre-K enrollment? Talk to me about kind of the challenges that are really evident there for maybe education pipeline for teachers and just sort of the other obstacles that we might have.
Yeah, so like I said, roughly 50% of our early learning spaces are considered high quality. Mm-hmm. So that is measured by child outcomes, so what children are experiencing and what they're learning. It's also measured by teacher background and teacher quality. So we have a couple of major challenges that we're trying to address. As you said, teacher quality is one. Not only quality, but also a pipeline of folks who want to work with young children. We have a early childhood teacher pipeline working group where a lot of the major players are coming together to think through how is it that we can improve the pipeline? How can we recruit, retain, and continue to train and build quality? We also have a child care cost challenge, right? So it may cost a family more than $1,000 a month to care for their baby. And so the universal pre-K effort, which we call Pre-K for All, is really, right, we just accomplished our very first step in Pre-K for All. We passed the joint ordinance, which is huge for Memphis and Shelby County. And now what we're trying to do is align all of the players and every year increase the amount of classrooms that are involved in our Pre-K for All effort. But that also means that we have trained teachers, that we have high quality centers, because in order to be a part of this effort, there are certain measures that centers and organizations have to abide by.
Let me interrupt just for a second. The joint ordinance is City Council, County Commission. And about how much money is it for the program?
So, City Council and County Commission has been co-funding early learning since 2019. So in total, over the past 6 years, they've invested more than $60 million in early learning and pre-K. This year specifically, they're investing $20 million in early learning. Our hope is that over the next 5 years, given, revenue constraints, but our hope is that we can ask the city and county to continue to increase their allocation for early learning so we can get to the actual Pre-K for All number.
Yeah, back to Laura.
Right. With the education pipeline, educator pipeline, school district K-12 certainly experiences vacancies and has to kind of find ways to, bring in other people to long-term substitutes or otherwise to help fill those numbers. Is that, are vacancies in teaching positions something that you guys deal with, and what are the ways that you respond to them?
I know we face it every day. What we look for is a well-qualified teacher. We don't necessarily want to compete with LEAs and school districts around certified teachers. So we would love a bachelor's level teacher that maybe hasn't been certified, or even an associate's degree teacher. We're turning over looking for apprentices. We've started the first early childhood apprenticeship program in Shelby County, really the second in the entire state, to try to attract high school students that want to transition, and we help them get their associate's degree and kind of move them forward. So we're looking for high quality, well qualified teachers that aren't necessarily certified, and they're just tough to come by. What we're trying to do is raise the rates of pay. We're providing great benefits, and so all of the child care community recognizes that in order to attract people to this field, we have to pay a living wage or better. And I think we're starting to see that. The momentum continues to build, and because of partners like First Aid that recognize that and fund the classrooms well, that's really helping partners be able to pay what they need to pay to attract better people to the field.
Right, and that Head Start, as I understand, had a mandate and rule change to increase funding for teachers. That didn't necessarily translate to more funding for you guys to meet that requirement. Is that right?
At this point, it's a request. It's a goal to pay closer to what the local school district does. And hopefully over time funding we'll see that happen. But what we're paying partners and what we're receiving is enough to really pay great wages. Now it's just a matter of finding great people to match with that.
Candace, as you kind of look at all of these, again, different pieces and match them together, what are you doing? And Sean, you can jump in on this too, having 47 operators. How are you guys getting each other's operators to talk with each other? What is kind of some of the network practices that you guys have to help, if something's going really well in one classroom, to make that, feed across all of these different thousands of other classrooms managed by, dozens of other people across the county?
Well, formally, First State Memphis has a couple of committees and working groups that we invite partners to join us in. So we have what's called the Leadership Council, which is really a table of folks who are interested and committed and working in early care and education in a variety of roles, including partners who run child care centers or operate child care centers. And so those partners can join our Leadership Council. They can specifically join our pre-K working group, and that is all folks who are working in pre-K specifically, including family engagement personnel, which provides a lot of the wraparound support that Sean was speaking of. There's also instructional coaches in classrooms. So we convene those folks depending on the group. It may be monthly or it may be quarterly, to really come together to share best practices, to talk about what's not working, what is working. And so formally we do that. And then informally, everyone is talking to one another.
We would love to talk more, but we're out of time. There's so much more that I would love to talk to you all about, but that was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Laura. And thank you all for joining us. If you missed any of the show today, you can get the full episode online at WKNO.org, The Daily Memphian, YouTube. You can also download the full show as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.